Womanjika. This is a word in a Wurundjeri Woiwurrung language meaning welcome. I am the Mayor, Councillor Bruce Lancashire, and welcome to the gallery. I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. I would like to welcome members of the public who have joined us in the chamber tonight. Members of the public attending council and committee meetings are expected to behave respectfully at all times and not permitted to engage with the councillors or council officers during the course of the meeting. This includes directing loud and inappropriate comments towards councillors and officers or making noise that impacts council's ability to conduct its meeting. All persons present tonight have a right to be safe and treated with respect. Council will not tolerate any behaviour that threatens the safety of anyone present in the chamber or which disrupts the ability for council to conduct its business on behalf of the community. You will be asked to leave the meeting if your behaviour is inappropriate, disruptive or rude. The disruptive behaviour from some members of the public at the previous council meeting was not acceptable. If this behaviour continues tonight, not only will the meeting be adjourned and persons asked to leave, but the council will also consider and implement further controls at future meetings to ensure the council meetings take place in a safe environment for all participants. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please follow the direction of council officers and the emergency procedures on the wall near the door. I would like to note I have given approval for Channel 31 to live stream this meeting. A recording of this meeting will be published on Council's website. Please stand for the acknowledgement of country. On behalf of Brimbank City Council, I respectfully acknowledge and recognise the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people as the traditional custodians of this land and pay respect to their elders past, present and future. I ask councillors to remain standing for the council commitment. Others may be seated. As the council, we will act in the best interests of the Brimbank community and consider the immediate and long-term impacts of our decisions. We will make these decisions fairly and without bias. We will uphold all of our obligations under the laws of Victoria and Council's local laws, and we will act in accordance with our code of conduct. Councillors, please be seated. Apologies, leave of absence. Councillor Dang has submitted an apology for tonight, and Councillor Dang has submitted a request for a leave of absence from the 19th of October to the 25th of October 2023. May I have a mover of a motion to approve the requests? Councillor Nguyen?
Yes, I'd like to move the request as Mr. Chair to screen. Thank you.
May I have a seconder?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. Is there, I'll move that motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Disclosure of conflicts of interest. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have on 12.6, page 267. This is the rolling programme priority list. It's the yearly maintenance in most of our parks and sporting grounds. I'm a member of a life member rather for 3 different clubs. So I declare a conflict of interest for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David. Are there any other conflicts of interest? Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to declare conflicts of interest for items 12.3 and 12.12 as previously disclosed to the CEO.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. Designation of items as confidential. May I have a mover of a motion to designate items as confidential?
I move the motion as per business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg.
I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I move the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. May I have a mover of a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting?
I move the motion as per business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you.
I second the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Condolences. There is one item of condolences this evening. The passing of Carl Wilson. The motion that council notes the passing of Carl Wilson and extends condolences to her family. Do I have a mover? Councillor O'Reilly.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take this time to acknowledge the passing of... Oh,
Sorry. We have a seconder.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. Yes, sorry,
Yeah, okay.
Councillor O'Reilly, if you could continue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take this time to acknowledge the passing of Carl Wilson, who was a stand-up comedian, presenter, actor and writer. She was also a Sunshine local. Proud of our industrial heritage and the multicultural nature of our community, she shone a light onto our suburb for the rest of Melbourne to see. She featured in many Australian comedy programs, including The Project and Have You Been Paying Attention, and was also on the Great Australian Bake Off and the Australian version of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Fale Cal for lighting up our world, and we pass on our condolences to your family. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to
No, Mr. Mayor.
speak to the
thank you.
motion?
No.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Yes, Councillor Tarkos.
I'd just further like to add that that Cal was a very unique and vibrant star and was loved by her family and friends and peers. And it's a huge loss to the arts and entertainment community and to our local community.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to that motion? I'll move the motion then. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Congratulations. There are 3 items of congratulations this evening. The Western Rainbow Awards. Do I have a mover of that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that motion as per business papers.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Russick.
I'll second it as per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say a few words. Firstly, that this was the first ever Rainbow Awards and it was held at Hobson's Bay. I was thrilled that our council was the recipient of 4 awards. I congratulate all the shortlisted finalists and was very proud to see a strong Brimbank contingent there made up of staff and all those involved in the fantastic programs that we run. It was a great night and I commend the Mayor also for attending and going on stage and supporting the Brimbank winners. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to?
I would just like to say to congratulate Brimbank winners on such a great work.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Borg.
I would also like to join with my fellow councillors to congratulate the winners, especially Youth Focus Service, which is the crystal clear. This is committed to creating a safe and inclusive community. It is a program that values all young people and the diversity they bring through their sexualities, genders, ethnicities, culture, and abilities. These last few years, Brimbank Council has come a long way in supporting the LGBTQIA community. we are continuing working towards the LGBTQIA accreditation. So congratulations to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to that motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. 20 years of service. The motion is that Council congratulates Councillor Sam David on receiving the Councillor Service Award from the MAV for 20 years of service as councillor. Would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Russick?
I'll move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to second that motion? Councillor Borg? Sorry.
I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Russick, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge Councillor David's dedication to his community, both and before council. I know Sam to be a very community-orientated man who has given so much of his time and effort and attention to our area, and so many community members are grateful for this. Congratulations on your recent 20 years of service award. You deserve it, Sam.
And Councillor Borg?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to congratulate Councillor Sam David on this wonderful award. As Councillor Russick said, Councillor David is highly committed to the community. He has certainly made a sterling contribution to our community, and personally it's great to have him as a fellow councillor and as a friend. Congratulations, Councillor David.
Thank you. Would anyone else? Councillor Nguyen?
Yes, I would like to congratulate Councillor Sam David on receiving his award for 20 years of service as councillor, but actually he's been serving the community for more than a couple of decades. And Councillor David is a person who's very known in the community, and people could have whatever opinion about him, but you cannot deny that he is a person who's very active in the community. I remember one time, like, I went to, even the Vietnamese community thing, people knew him. They're like, oh, I know him from ages ago. There was also another time where Councillor David and I went to meet the different ethnic communities, especially the seniors. And it's just, this is a person who's been dedicated through all the challenges throughout his career and his life to serving the community. So, yeah, Brimbank knows a lot of its history, and a person who knows a lot of its history is Councillor David. So congratulations, Councillor David.
Thank you. Would anyone else? Councillor Tarkos?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say, Sam, it's been a pleasure serving the last 2 terms with you. We've had some highs and lows, and we've ridden that roller coaster together. You don't have to travel far and wide in Brimbank and ask everyone. They all know who you are, and that's because you are a community councillor. You love being out amongst the people. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to
Thank you, Councillor David. I would just like to say I'm honoured to work alongside you. You are an asset to our community, and I have a lot of respect for you. Thank you and congratulations.
Sorry, if councillors could speak into their microphone just to make sure it's a bit clearer. Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to congratulate Sam on your 20 years of service. You've been around in Sunshine West for such a long time. When my grandma came to the area, you were there. You've been such a present force in the community. So thank you for all you do for Brimbank.
Would any other councillor like to make any comment? I certainly would like to make a comment myself. I do count Councillor David as a friend, a good friend. We're in our 2nd term of office, and of course your term obviously goes back 20 years. I think the term that often gets said is that you're a bit of an institution, and I hope that doesn't age you. But definitely an institution. There's nothing worse than walking through the Sunshine Shopping Centre with Councillor David, and it's every second person knows him. Has that sort of recognition amongst the community. He does so much work for the community. I've been out there at the senior citizens, and you do a power of work signing forms, JP, for the community. And as mentioned, it goes back way beyond the 20 years. But we certainly, I think, all see you as a source of wisdom and a mentor to all of us. Thank you very much for your service to the community, and it is highly appropriate that the MAB has recognised that. And if I could ask you to, if you wouldn't mind, come up here, please. I'd like to present that to you. Would you like to say a couple of words?
This is better than the one I've got the other night, Mr. Mayor, and I do like to say thank you to you with those wonderful words. Bit of emotion, thank you, councillors. But indeed, I still think it was like yesterday, 20 years ago. If it wasn't for some trouble back in 2009, I would have about 27 and a half years here. But I want this acknowledgement by the MAB to the communities. You mentioned the communities, and indeed, and I'd like to say thank you to them for allowing me to work with them over the years, and we got something done from time to time. Again, thank you all. Thank you, councillors. Thank you.
I'll move that motion. All those in favour? Councillor David, are you voting? Thank you. Motion passed. Outgoing Mayor and Deputy Mayor, a motion that Council congratulates Councillor Bruce Lancashire and Councillor Runka Russick on the completion of their successful 12-month term as Mayor and Deputy Mayor of the City of Brimbank. Do I have a mover of that motion? Councillor Tarkos.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
second it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor David. Seconded. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the Mayor, the outgoing Mayor and Deputy Mayor, and thank the service for the last 12 months. On behalf of all councillors, take the opportunity to thank Councillor Lancashire and Councillor Russick for their hard work and their striving for innovation in the mayoralty year. I also like to congratulate our Mayor for the volume of advocacy through what I believe many meetings with MPs across the political spectrum. You never hesitated to meet. It didn't matter who they were. You were there batting for Brimbank. You were a strong advocate for the city, and you worked with really well with other mayors to try and improve not just our city but the whole Western Metropolitan LGAs that face many challenges with growth, but are also at the same time at the cusp of many opportunities. And I know what you're like with opportunities. You want to grab them first here for Brimbank. It's been great having you batting for our community, and the media releases, you've stood up strongly for our community at all times. Some of the issues you've stood up for our community is against Barrow, gambling harms, transport in Brimbank agenda, the investment, the greater investment by the state and federal governments, instrumental in the opening of Sydenham Park, which we will see this in the next week. And you've attended just about nearly every event across Brimbank and the West to promote and advocate for our city. We thank you, and we thank Councillor Russick for your commitment, and hope that you have some rest after a very busy and impressive year, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Indeed, both of you, I think you've done a great job over the years. Deputy Mayor. As a mayor, he did extremely well. He continues as a Deputy Mayor today. But Mr. Mayor, I remember the first term when we elected, you sent us an email. We happened to be in the island somewhere, holiday. And he says, I'm putting my hand up for the mayorship. And we didn't know you from bottle shop, as I say. But indeed, we got together and met you, and indeed, we support you, but we missed by one. But it doesn't matter. Never too late. You're the mayor. I found you to be a man with your word. You're very good at that, and I thank you for being you. You've surrounded by a good family, and you've done well, Mr. Mayor, and I congratulate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Russick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Lancashire has been an outstanding mayor over the past 12 months. I'm extremely happy to have served as deputy alongside him and see firsthand how dedicated and hardworking Bruce is. Although 1 year may sound like a long time, it has given very quick and a lot has been accomplished during that time. I congratulate Bruce on his dedication to the community of Brimbank, and I hope he knows how important his hard work has been in achieving some fantastic outcomes, in particular the upcoming opening of Sydenham Park, which wouldn't have been possible without your hard work, Bruce. I hope you look back on the last 12 months with pride over your achievements, not only on Sydenham Park, but your commitment to sustainability, connectivity, and advocacy, which all contributes towards a better community and an even greater Brimbank. Thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Russick. Any other, Councillor Borg?
I would also like to join my fellow councillors in congratulating you, Mr. Mayor and Deputy Mayor Ranka Rasic, for your great contribution to the city of Brimbank in your respective roles. Mr. Mayor, it has been great pleasure working under your leadership as a mayor. Amongst other things, you were very inclusive and transparent, keeping the interest of the community front and center. As my fellow councillor mentioned, you were constantly very active, participating in most all of the events. Your advocacy was excellent, and you worked very, very hard to achieve what we have during these last 12 months. Thank you so much, and thank you, Councillor Rasic, too, for your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Nguyen?
Yeah, I would like to thank both Mr. Mayor and also Ms. Deputy Mayor for their service this year. And it is a really tiring job to do what you do, having been a former mayor myself. And there's all those times like you go out there in the community, all the community events, speaking at them, and we all know as councillors that Mr. Mayor and Madam Deputy Mayor, they're both very inclusive. They've listened to all the councillors and even the community. And it's also a thing of balancing it with the staff and bringing everybody together to achieve what's the best for the community. And I really thank you both for your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor would like to make any comments? Okay. I'd certainly like to make a few comments about the year. It's been an absolute privilege to have served our community as the Mayor of Brimbank during the last year, working with my fellow councillors, the executive team, council officers, and our community to build a better Brimbank. Thank you for your support over the last 12 months. This year, we have much to be proud of. I am pleased to celebrate our achievements and recognise the support we continue to provide our community. As the Mayor, I am deeply committed to working to make Brimbank a better place for all, and this has been my focus throughout my term. Together, we have achieved some outstanding results. Through active engagement with political decision makers, we have achieved some successful advocacy wins over the past year that will create opportunities across our community. I have met with over 23 MPs, ministers, including the now Premier, the Honourable Jacinta Allen MP, the now Deputy Premier, the Honourable Ben Carroll MP, the Honourable Catherine King MP, the Honourable Brendan O'Connor MP, and the State Opposition Leader John Pesutto MP to push for the needs of our community. It's great to see many of our priorities being repeatedly mentioned in both the state and federal parliaments. Our advocacy priorities included the Melbourne Airport Rail, developing the Sunshine Precinct, rebuilding Albion Station, safer roads including the Fix the Calder Focus, investment in our city, reducing gambling harm, and mental health support. Through these efforts, Council has secured over $300 million in state and federal investments towards key projects and initiatives to help our city grow. Some of our advocacy wins include state budget commitments to rebuild the Albion Station and the implementation of the first stage of the Sunshine Station Master Plan. These projects will help unlock investment, create jobs, uplift our community, and transform the West into a world-class city. I am pleased with other advocacy outcomes. Highlights include significant reforms to the operation of electronic gaming machines, our ongoing opposition to Melbourne Airport's proposed third runway, new mental health facilities, greening our city, and increasing tree canopy coverage, new parks, and upgrades to sporting facilities, playgrounds, and community infrastructure. In May of this year, I was delighted to be joined by the Vice-Chancellor of Victoria University, Professor Adam Shoemaker, to extend and update the Memorandum of Understanding between Council and Victoria University. One of the areas of collaboration between the MOU includes the development of the Sunshine Precinct. We are therefore delighted with the Victorian Government's confirmation in June that the previously announced new Centre of Excellence in Paramedicine will be based in VU's Sunshine Campus. I am passionate about working hard to represent the community's needs and making sure Brimbank gets a fair go. In June this year, I was extremely proud to attend the Australian Local Government Association General Assembly in Canberra and advocate strongly for our community. I am pleased to say that we were successful in moving 4 key motions at the Assembly, and that will create positive change for the Brimbank community. Council will keep advocating for our community across all levels of government towards building a better, stronger future for Brimbank. We've continued to deliver a large capital works program. This included new and upgraded parks, playgrounds, sporting facilities, community infrastructure and roads. Recently, I attended several community facility openings that support the health and well-being of our residents. I am particularly proud of our effort to secure funding towards the planning at Sydenham Park and the opening of a new shared user path happening within a matter of days. I'm very pleased the community has another green space to enjoy and an amazing natural asset right here in Brimbank. During the year, we also opened Cooinda, providing a much-needed welcoming space for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander residents. Over the past year, Council adopted several key plans and strategies that will help plan for the future needs of the community and achieve long-term investment in the city. These included the Carer Support Plan, the updated financial hardship policy, Brimbank's lifelong learning strategy, and Council's advocacy plan for 2023 to 2025. We continue to listen and work hard to represent our community's needs and priorities. We understand the importance of staying connected with our community. This year, we established the Brimbank Community Voice panel comprising of residents, ratepayers and business owners from Brimbank. The panel provides a platform for individuals to share their feedback and ideas on important issues and projects that affect our community. I want to express gratitude to everyone who has participated in our community engagement activities and advisory committees throughout the year. Your input has been invaluable in informing Council's decision making. All of this work has been done over the past year is helping to create a transformed Brimbank that is beautiful, thriving, healthy and connected, and that gives me great satisfaction. I would like to extend my thanks to my fellow councillors, in particular Councillor Runka Russick, who has served as Deputy Mayor this year. Congratulations on a successful year. And also to the many council staff who continue to passionately deliver so many valuable and essential services to our community. I'd like to say in ending, it's been an honour to serve my community as Mayor, and I will continue to work hard as a Brimbank councillor, for this is a great city we love, and particularly to thank you all councillors. What a great effort, what a great team effort. Thank you very much. Very impressive. Okay, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Public question time. Mr. Brady, I understand we have received questions from members of the public.
Thanks, Mayor and councillors. Tonight we have 8 public questions. The first one is from Peter Robinson. A sign at the deep end of the Brimbank Aquatic Centre 50-metre pool bans diving into the water because it is deep water. Can the council explain why the diving into deep water is unsafe? The pool depth is 2.2 metres. This is the deepest pool in this part of Melbourne.
Thank you for your question. The restriction on public diving in pools is not a council rule as such, but part of the Royal Life-Saving Society of Australia, RLSSA, Guidelines for Safe Pool Operation, GSPO. It indicates that in public pools, diving is restricted to supervised programs run by pool operators. This is to minimise the risk of head and spinal injuries. Brimbank City Council are required to follow all guidelines that are listed in the GSPOs.
The next question is also from Peter Robinson on the same topic. If you cannot dive into the water at the above pool, can the council explain to swimmers how they are to enter the water?
Thank you. Swimmers can enter the water a number of different ways without diving head first. We have ramps and ladders into all pools other than our shallow splash park that has a beach entry. Swimmers can also enter from the edge of the pool using a safe entry technique taught in most swim schools, where they use their hands and arms on the edge of the pool to enter the water. Swimmers can also sit on the side with legs in the water and lower themselves in. Lastly, swimmers can also jump feet first into the water, similar to a pin drop.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is from Claire Nomdeguer. Could Council please provide an update on the investigation its Planning and Compliance Department is undertaking into alleged breaches of the planning permit granted to Legacy Boxing Gym in Sunshine West?
Thank you. Council's Planning Compliance... Oh, sorry.
No. This is our update. It's a different. Is it all right?
That's all right. And
This one we have the updated version. I'll give to you.
okay. Council's Planning Compliance Unit is unable to provide specific details about this active investigation. Officers will continue to work closely with Victoria Police about this ongoing matter.
Thanks, Mayor. The next question is also from Claire Nomdeguer. Will council or councillors respond to the letter from Maribyrnong councillor Jorge Horguera regarding the Legacy Boxing Gym?
Councillor Yohera's correspondence requested a statement condemning the facility and revoking the issued permits. Council at its meeting of the 21st of February 2023 made a statement addressing this request. In addition, Council, on a number of occasions through responses to public questions and media statement, has condemned any intolerant, racist or fascist activity or sentiment within Brimbank and in any other place. Council does not have the power to revoke or cancel a planning permit under the Planning and Environment Act 1989. Council's acting CEO has advised Councillor Yohera of this action.
Thanks, Mayor and Councillors. The next question is from Sharon. I watched the last meeting on YouTube, very upset how you do not listen to people that go to the meeting. You wasted ratepayers' money on The Voice, but you don't listen to the people. Why can't they talk?
Thank you. As per the Local Government Act 2020, council meetings are a forum for council to make decisions by resolution of council. Members of the public are welcome to engage with council through a number of channels, such as the general contact line 9249 4000, by email info@brimbank.vic.gov.au, submitting public questions at council meetings, or Your Say's page on council's website.
The next question is also from Sharon. I hear you say you want respect, but you don't respect the people. Respect is earned. Why do you think you have the right to kick people out of a council meeting? You kicked everyone out, even people who did not say anything. The council building belongs to the people, not you.
Thank you. All persons present at a council meeting have a right to be safe and treated with respect. Council will not tolerate any behaviour that threatens the safety of anyone present in the chamber or which disrupts the ability for council to conduct its business on behalf of the community. In accordance with the governance rules, the chair may order and cause the removal of any person who disrupts a meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. The next question is from Brad Lyons. Why do councils need a CEO and why do they get paid so much, especially with the public struggling with the cost of living?
Thank you. S44 of the Local Government Act requires council to appoint a CEO. The conditions of the CEO's employment are governed by the Chief Executive Officer Employment and Remuneration Policy in accordance with Section 45 of the Act.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. The final question tonight is also from Brad Lyons. How do you feel following the failed Voice to Parliament and you have gone and spent a huge amount of money supporting?
Thank you. Brimbank Council acknowledges that Australians have exercised their rights and voted no in this weekend's referendum to recognise the First Nations people of Australia through the establishment of an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to Parliament. Despite the result, Council remains optimistic and committed to embracing the future with our support for reconciliation. We are a diverse municipality and the rich history and culture of Australia's First Nations people is woven throughout Brimbank. Council acknowledges we are on a journey of listening and learning, and we continue to work actively with partnership and with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander residents and the traditional owners of the land on which we live and work. Item 10, petitions. There is one petition to be received. Proposed bus-friendly raised platforms along Main Street and Mernda Street, Sunshine West. Council received a petition from 58 petitioners objecting to Council's proposed bus-friendly raised platforms along Main Street and Mernda Street between Glengala Road and Oldfield Street, Sunshine West. May I have a mover of the motion? Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly.
I'd like to move the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder of?
Second, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor David. Thank you. Would the speaker like to, would you like Councillor O'Reilly to speak to the motion?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, just to be received and notice, please. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 11, minutes and reports of delegated committees. There are no minutes or reports of delegated committees. Item 12, officer reports. There are 12 officer reports for consideration by Council tonight. If you have alternate or amended motions for this evening, you must draft these motions and provide to the governance team via email so that they may be shared on screen and form part of the meeting. Otherwise, we may have to defer the matter until the motion has been written, allowing time to proceed uninterrupted. Item 12.1, the planning activity update and delegate decisions, including planning scheme amendments update. Ms. Deans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report presents for noting the status of planning permit applications and decisions made under delegated authority for the month of September, as well as progress on planning scheme amendments where Council is the planning authority or has requested the Minister to prepare an amendment. Thank you.
Are there any questions of the Director? Thank you. Would someone like to move the motion? Councillor Nguyen.
I'd like to move the motion as per business papers.
Would someone like to second the motion? Yeah, thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'd just like to note the reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to the motion?
I know you will soon. No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that positive results this month, particularly around subdivision approvals. I note the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion or against the motion? I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 12.2, Planning Compliance Activity Report. Ms. Deans, would you like to comment? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report presents for noting the status of planning permit applications and decisions made under delegated authority for the month of September. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the last one. This report is a much shorter report, actually. This report presents for noting the status of planning compliance activity for the period of 1st of July to the 30th of September 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. And could everyone make sure they're speaking into their mics as people are having difficulty hearing it? Thank you. Do we have any questions of the Acting Director? Do we have a mover of the motion? Councillor Papalia?
I move the motion as per shared screen.
Do we have a seconder of the motion? Councillor Borg?
I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Papalia, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Borg, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Thank you. Okay, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 12.3. I think we have. Thank you, Councillor Riley. Ms. Deans, would you like to comment on 12.3? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report presents the draft Brimbank Housing and Neighbourhood Character Strategy for Council to consider endorsing for the purposes of an 8-week community consultation. The draft strategy is the culmination of considerable research, analysis, technical assessment and preliminary stakeholder engagement. It responds to state government planning policy to plan for population growth over a 15-year period and to identify where growth should occur. It also identifies the value characteristics and preferred future character of Brimbank's residential areas, proposing 6 neighbourhood character precincts. The draft strategy includes a residential development framework, or RDF, which is required by the state government to balance housing and neighbourhood character objectives and identify housing change areas. Subject to Council's consideration of this report, the draft strategy will be promoted through advertising, direct notice to key stakeholders and social media. Engagement will include community information sessions at council libraries and information on Council's Your Say website. A further report would be presented to Council in the future outlining the submissions made about the draft strategy and presenting a final draft strategy and background report. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Director. Do we have any questions? Do I have a mover of the motion?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder of the motion? Councillor Borg.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I know that you want to be in my spot tonight, Mr. Mayor, but this was actually one of your ideas that you pushed in the first term. I'd like to congratulate our planning team. This is probably one of the most comprehensive housing policy reports I've ever read. This spans over 2 terms, and it indicates that Brimbank requires 14,000 new homes to meet the needs of the growing population here in Brimbank. With housing affordability becoming more challenging and given our disadvantaged demographic, it's imperative that we get the strategic development of where this housing will go right. Identified in this report are key strategic sites such as Sunshine Albion Precinct and Sydenham Water Gardens Precinct that have huge capacity for infill development, as well as closeness to services like buses and train stations. There is an extensive breakdown in this report of all the precincts in Brimbank that make me feel it paints a very hopeful picture of how we as a growing LGA do have the capacity for a diverse housing mix that highlights and encourages housing to be considered next to transport routes and activity centres. So in essence, creating denser yet well-designed and well-landscaped neighbourhoods close to transport and close to services while still respecting our neighbourhood character is such a great formula. Brimbank's diverse community includes couples, downsizers, empty nesters, small or single families and multi-generational families. We've got the whole mix here. There is a growing demand for smaller houses and apartments as people downsize. Increasing the supply of diverse housing is also important in improving affordability. This draft report on housing and neighbourhood character strategy is one of the largest and most comprehensive reports I've ever read. I am highly impressed and I look forward to our community's feedback during the 8-week consultation period and support the vision that by 2041, in Brimbank, we will be a city of green, connected and diverse neighbourhoods offering a range of high quality, sustainable housing choices for everyone at every stage in their life.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to echo Councillor Tarkos' comments. As already mentioned, this has been very long coming, and it's great to see it being presented to us in the chamber. Council has gone through an intensive work and preparation, including but not limited to the background report, which was done by Council at the beginning or at this meeting on the 18th of April 2023. The draft strategy includes a draft vision, which included input from the community through the Brimbank community voice, the first time that the community had such an opportunity to make a contribution in this way. The projected population growth for the next 15 years presents lots of opportunities and challenges to Council. Indeed, the draft strategy is estimating at least an addition of 14,000 dwellings by 2041 to cater for an additional 34,000 residents. Diversity in future housing in Brimbank is imperative. We are facing an increasingly diverse and aging population that require various types of housing and housing tenure. It's important to note that 80% of the housing in Brimbank is separate housing. Downsizing, lack of housing affordability, as well as multi-generational living in the same household need to be considered in future planning and housing. Neighborhood character also needs to be considered. Great to see this draft strategy identifying 6 neighborhood character precincts. I'm very much looking forward to the community's feedback during the 8-week consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? Okay. I'll move the motion. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. If we could have Excuse me to the group in the gallery, but you are disturbing the meeting with your disruptive behaviour. If you continue to interrupt us in this way, I will have no choice but direct you leave the meeting. Thank you. 12.4, Sydenham Park Consultative Committee. Ms Deans.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Following on from a council report on the 21st of February 2023, this report presents to council for noting the 3 community appointments from the Sydenham Park Consultative Committee and the nominated representatives of the Friends of Sydenham Park, Sydenham and District Historical Society and Keilor Golf Club representatives. The report also seeks Council's endorsement for proposed changes to the terms of reference, as well as a result of feedback from the Brimbank Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Consultative Committee to remove their membership and allow for 2 members from the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation. The report also includes for Council to note that the first meeting of the group will be scheduled in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Acting Director? Could I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Rasek.
I'll move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Could I have a seconder of the motion?
I second it, Mr Mayor.
Councillor David. The seconder. Would the mover of the motion like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Would the seconder of the motion like to speak to the motion?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. 12.5, renaming of Sydenham Park. Mr Fleming, would you like to speak to that motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. At the Council meeting on 19th July 2022, Council considered a notice of motion regarding changing the name of Sydenham Park to an appropriate Aboriginal name suggested by Aboriginal groups. This report seeks Council's endorsement for community consultation of the 3 shortlisted traditional owner names provided by the Wurundjeri Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation to rename Sydenham Park. Yaluk Barring means river trail in the Woy Wurrung language. It represents the trails people walk along and near the Mayoral River. Yerin Tadon Park means bushwalk in the Woy Wurrung language, representing the paths that will run through the parks that people will walk through connecting to Bunjil or Mother Earth. Wawubarn Park is the last shortlisted name, meaning running water in Woy Wurrung language, represents the flow of water in the Corroit and Jacksons Creek in the north of the park. Subject to council endorsement, it is proposed to undertake community consultation from 1st to 30th of November 2023 on the 3 recommended traditional owner names.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Acting Director? Okay. Would someone like to move the motion? Councillor Russick?
As per shared screen.
Thank you. Would someone like to second the motion? Councillor Nguyen?
I'd like to take it as per shared screen.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
No, thank.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I would just like to say that we've been through a process to consider what possible names it could be and to encourage the community to provide their feedback on the names. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Tarkos?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say that that the names are all chosen by Wurundjeri and Woy Wurrung cultural heritage have a great authenticity and meaning behind them. And I think that it's only appropriate if you walk through Sydenham Park that you certainly feel that there is something quite, amazing about this place, that it needs a name that reflects it. And I certainly know that the whole of Jacksons Creek area has a very special significance to the Indigenous community, and I think the sooner we do rename it, it would be great to have that name from the community's feedback. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Borg?
Yes, briefly, just to add, it's interesting to note the 3 shortlisted names in the Woy Wurrung language. Yaluk Barring Park, which means river trail, as already mentioned, Yerin Taido Park, bushwalk, and Wurruban Park, running water. These are obviously very, very significant to the site. These names may sound unfamiliar and complex. This is not uncommon when renaming a place in the Woy Wurrung language. However, in time, the community will get used to the chosen name. Renaming Brimbank Park to a name in the Woy Wurrung language is a bold move, and it also means that council is also highly progressive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? I'll move the motion. All those in favour? All those against? Motion is carried. 12.6. Councillor David, thank you. Item 12.6, final draft sports facility development plan update. Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report seeks the final endorsement of the final draft sports facility development plan. The plan contains a comprehensive and up-to-date account of all sports participation and facility needs of the Brimbank community over the next 10 years. The plan maintains a focus on high-level social and health outcomes. It aims to support participation in physical activity by improving the access, provision and promotion of sport and recreation facilities within Brimbank.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Acting Director? Do I have a mover of the motion? Councillor Tarkos?
I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder of the motion? Councillor O'Reilly?
I'd like to second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The final draft sports development plan, I wanted to just start off by saying I'm very proud of this council and the previous term council for all their achievements in pushing hard for an overhaul of what was some pretty run-down sports facilities right across Brimbank. It has been a slow and evolving process and a recognition that sports facilities really have become community hubs for our communities. What do I mean by that? That they perform more than just a sporting function. There's the aspect of increased physical activity and participation, positive health outcomes, encourage social interactions, builds strong community relationships, creates events for people to meet and connect, social focal point for many residents. And they run more than sports, they build strong communities. Every single person I have spoken to has praised the sports facilities improvements within Brimbank. This report outlines extensively, and in particular, Bork, which we have seen an example of how popular that facility has become with over 10,000 members. We need at least 3 Borks in Brimbank. If only we had the partnerships and the funding, I believe we could do it. This council will continue to strongly advocate, and I know that we're all passionate about this because we want to provide the best facilities for our community. This is our children who feel proud to play in facilities across a whole cross-section of sports. This is a great draft plan. I look forward to the community's feedback and the way that we can also optimise our current facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor O'Reilly, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll just say briefly, I echo what Councillor Tarkos has said. I'd also like to add that there were 280 written submissions from community members during the community consultation period, which is, it helps us to make a really informed plan. And lots of people, lots of clubs have helped put their insights into this. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to? Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I just want to endorse my councillors' comments and acknowledge that the great importance of the review of the sports facility development plan. It was brought forward by council from the capital works because we could see that there was a great need for it, and this was largely due also to the voice of the community, and we were listening and we wanted to follow it through. The development of this plan included a very thorough process. It's a very comprehensive report, which includes an update of and the account of the sports participation and facility needs of the Brimbank community over the next 10 years. It also identifies the need to develop additional facilities at the 4 existing sports sites, including Sasella Park. It's great to see that also included in this development plan. The development plan has also identified the need to develop a regional multi-sports facility which will be of great benefit to the community in Brimbank and beyond, as outlined in this report. It's also important to note that Council, in the process of developing the Sunshine Energy Park Vision Plan, which shows a range of future uses at the site, including indoor and outdoor sports facilities. A regional multi-sports facility would be ideal for this site. The draft of this sports facility development plan generated a great deal of interest amongst the community during its consultation period. Indeed, as Councillor O'Reilly mentioned, we had 280 written submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Could Councillor David be invited back?
Also, if you're finding the gallery disruptive, or if the councillors are finding it difficult to hear because they're talking in the gallery, you can remind them that they can leave the gallery and return if they want to talk.
Yes. I believe some councillors are having difficulty with the noise from the gallery. If you wish to talk, I suggest you leave the gallery, have your discussions and then come back. Thank you. Item 12.7, submission to the National Housing and Homelessness Plan. Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is presented for Council to consider endorsing the submission to the National Housing and Homelessness Plan. Brimbank has the highest number of people experiencing homelessness of all the Western Melbourne local government areas. Council's submission addresses relevant questions for consideration by the government in preparing the National Housing and Homelessness Plan by providing analysis of the key issues and presenting recommendations for consideration. It is informed by data analysis, published research and local stakeholder engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the Acting Director? Would someone like to move the motion? Councillor Tarkos.
I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to second the motion? Councillor Kerr.
I second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very heartbreaking report to read. Brimbank has the highest numbers of people experiencing homelessness of all Western local governments. There has been an increase of 35%. I read the responses of people who were asked if they could speak to us councillors and the mayor, what would they say to us? This is some of the comments. We need more youth refuges, more support for youth in this area as most are in the CBD. At this point in time, I'll take anything. But the one that really impacted me the most is I would ask them to help me find affordable long-term housing so we can settle down and the children won't ask me, where are we going to next, mummy? I would like things to be safe and settled for me and my children so they can have friends and know that they can have a safe home and a house for a long time. As outlined in tonight's previous housing character report, by 2041, we will have an additional 34,000 residents move here and a deficit of 14,000 homes. We're already struggling now. Yet now we have a draft strategy that we heard previously in this meeting that could act as a tool, provide an interface where Brimbank can promote a lot of this diverse development and a good mix of affordable housing. So in essence, we have a mechanism now to try and prevent homelessness by preventing it happening in the first place. And where does it start? It starts with council. Access to affordable housing is key to preventing homelessness. We all know that in Brimbank. But this is compounded by disadvantage. And I know how hard our council works in the prevention space from early childhood to youth to aged to support people at all stages to help reduce the factors that can lead to homelessness. We also work hard to reduce things like gambling harms that we know can also lead to homelessness and other factors that entrench vulnerability that compound and reduce it. Early interventions, though, like education, support, wraparound services for the most vulnerable people in our community and providing connection is vital in our role as being the closest to the people. Federal and state and local governments must partner with us in prevention strategies and programs to help marginalised people by working closely with local government to close the gap of inequality and homelessness. Greater funding is needed for these services and that the current system is broken and overwhelmed with crisis accommodation not being an appropriate or safe option for people trying to find a place to live. I just want to thank all the council for doing this report, But mostly, I'd like to thank the outreach services in Brimbank, like the Teen Shed, Inspire Hope, the Feed the Children program on Tuesday night, and so many others that provide support, food, shelter, and the services that our homeless people need to get them through cold winters and nights. I thank the Brimbank Council for this report, and I hope that we can work in partnership in the prevention space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor David.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just very briefly, I commend Councillor Tarkos to what she spoke about the housing. And I look, as a young man myself, walking Swansea Street, for the first time I saw people sleeping just outside the shops. And I was very surprised because I haven't seen that before. But the later years, I saw them outside here, outside the Body Theatre. Indeed, we always, for many years now, as council, we would be calling affordable housing all the way, but we couldn't have it. My early years, we used to have the odd housing commission around the areas throughout Victoria, but they stopped that type of thing, and that was I think at the time the worst decision they ever made. It's a lot of people without a roof, and indeed, what Councillor Tago says, she's 100% right. We need to go ahead and build those houses so we can put some people, put them under a roof somewhere. And I congratulate the officers for putting this report before us tonight. I think it's an excellent report, and we support it. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Does Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council welcomes this opportunity to provide the submission that addresses relevant questions and subsequent recommendations for consideration by the government in preparing the National Housing and Homelessness Plan. As already mentioned, the community in Brimbank has been experiencing and still is entrenched structural disadvantage due to factors that have already been mentioned by Councillor Tarkos. This submission is very complex. It includes, among other things, a great focus on prevention and early intervention measures. This is highly significant in breaking the homelessness cycle. Indeed, it's imperative to use a broader lens in dealing with homelessness. Policies that are designed to address disadvantage and poverty play a critical role in reducing the risk to homelessness. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. Both federal and state government need to commit to adequate funding for homelessness early intervention, including tenancy programs. I would also like to acknowledge the staff for preparing such a great submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Item 12.8, 2022-2023 Brimbank Council Annual Report. Ms Hill, would you like to comment on that report? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Under the Local Government Act 2020, each local government is required to prepare an annual report by the 31st of October each year. The annual report for 22-23 has been prepared to comply with the Local Government Act and provides information on our strategic, operational and financial performance for the year 1st of July 2020 to the 30th of June 2023. Council is recommended to adopt the report and to publish the report on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any councillor have a question of the Director? Thank you. I'd like to make a short statement or a statement in relation to our annual report. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce the 2022-2023 annual report, a testament to our collective journey in Brimbank. This report is a celebration of our achievements and a recognition of the challenges we're faced during the 2022-2023 financial year. One of our standout successes was the opening of the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre, BAWC, which saw over 1 million visitors in just 9 months. Bearing a 6-star Green Star rating, this celebrated facility is a practical demonstration of our commitment to addressing climate change. However, financial uncertainties persist, with rising costs and rate capping impacting councils now and into the future. Despite ongoing financial pressures in 2022-2023, we have maintained a balanced budget and a stable debt ratio. Our advocacy efforts have secured commitments and funding for vital projects, demonstrating our commitment to the well-being of our residents. And our community engagement initiatives have been enhanced to strengthen our connection with you, guiding our decisions and priorities. As we look ahead, we strive to create a thriving, healthy and connected Brimbank, fostering economic growth and inclusive communities. I want to express my thanks to my fellow councillors, our enthusiastic community and staff for their contribution to our impressive accomplishments. Our annual report showcases our determination, perseverance and dedication to building a brighter future for Brimbank. I invite you to join us in reflecting on and celebrating our journey as outlined in 2022-2023 annual report. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions of the director? Could I have a mover of the motion, please? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder of the motion? Councillor Kerr.
I second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As already mentioned, this report generates a great sense of pride in terms of what we achieved across all sectors of the municipality, especially when we consider the challenging times that we are going through. As already mentioned, the opening of the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Center, the subsequent success in terms of membership and casual users of this facility is certainly one of the highlights of this report. Achievements and success comes in all shapes and sizes. It's important to identify them and acknowledge them. Indeed, over the past 12 months, Brimbank has received a number of awards in various sectors. Our whole of council advocacy was very successful, as already mentioned, securing over $300 million in government investments for our community well-being. Having said that, it's also important to acknowledge various challenges that we faced and are still facing as a local government. Some of these challenges have already been mentioned within the context of the submission regarding homelessness that was presented to Council earlier this evening. Unemployment and underemployment, education and skills gap, transport and connectivity, environmental sustainability, and climate emergency. Thank you everyone for these last 12 months and congratulate everyone involved, not only councillors and staff, but also the community and all the stakeholders that have been involved in delivering the projects that we did. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. 12.9, Draft Complaints Policy. Ms Hill?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Under the Local Government Act, councils are required to have a complaints policy and process. The draft complaints policy has been updated based on the Victorian Ombudsman Good Practice Guide. The policy outlines the principles and details on how to make a complaint and the steps around complaint handling. Council is recommended to endorse the draft complaints policy and invite submissions for a period of up to 2 weeks and receive a further report outlining submissions and present the final draft complaint policy for adoption consideration. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of the Director? Okay, could I have a mover of the motion, Councillor Kerr?
I move the motion as per the shared screen.
Could I have a seconder?
I second the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you, Councillor Russick. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Russick, would you like to speak to the motion? Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. 12.10, Governance Report. Ms Hill?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Governance Report is a standing report within the Council meeting agenda. It's predominantly a summary of key operational and governance activity written in compliance with the Local Government Act 1989 and 2020. In this month's report, Council is recommended to note the contracts entered into and works orders approved under delegation, the record of informal meetings of councillors, delegates and representative reports, and Council declarations of representations by Members of Parliament. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of the Director? Do we have a mover of the report? Councillor Papalia?
I move the motion as per shared screen.
Okay. Do we have a seconder of the report? Councillor Kerr?
I second the report as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Would the mover of the motion like to speak to the report?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Would the seconder like to speak to the report?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Would anyone else like to speak to the report? All those in favour of the report? Motion is carried. Item 12.11, consideration on introducing council public forums. Ms Hill?
Mr Mayor?
Ms Hill, would you like to speak to the motion? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report has been drafted in response to a notice of motion moved by Councillor Kerr at the 18th of July Council meeting. The motion asks for a report on how a regular public forum could be introduced at Brimbank for community members to make representation and ask live and unscripted question of the Mayor and councillors. The report provides an analysis of Council's current community engagement activity, information gained through a benchmarking exercise to learn what other councils run in terms of public forums, an analysis of the various options possible, details about how these various options could be implemented and what risks might need to be considered. Based on the current profile of the community engagement activity and the review process currently underway for the update of Council's community engagement policy, it's not recommended that Council proceed with introducing public forums at this time. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr
Councillor
Mayor,
Kerr?
it's my intention to move the following alternate motion as per the shared screen.
Sorry, if I could just go through and ask first of all if there's any questions of the Director. Okay. Councillor Kerr?
So as per the shared screen.
Can I, excuse me, Mr Mayor, can I just alter Councillor Kerr's alternative motion? I am in full support of that motion, but just with small alteration to it.
Can I object to that, Mr Mayor? At this stage, can we just get it seconded first as per the governance rules?
Could I ask if councillor Kerr is in agreement with that alteration?
I don't know what it is.
Sorry?
I'm not a mind reader, so can we
Thank you.
elaborate?
Can we?
I strongly do support this alternative motion, but with the small changes, as I said. The changes would be to change to quarterly 1 hour for submissions to be done week before. ID to be presented upon the submission. If the volume of submission grows over next year, we can revisit and introduce a monthly 1 hour forums. Prior to residents who are
Sorry, I thought this was my
prioritize the
motion. I don't know
residents
what's
who
going on
are
here.
presenting for the first time, so they do get
sorry.
prioritized.
Sorry.
Councillor Russick, you're not
Point
able
of order.
to speak to the motion. It's just, at this point, it's just putting the alternative wording. Sorry.
Okay, so this is what I was going to put as alternative or add to the motion as well.
You will need to move that as an amendment. Councillor Russick?
Okay, then I will move it as amendment after it's seconded, yeah?
But I haven't even had a chance to speak to
Yeah,
it.
after-
So can someone confirm that, please? Because I'm just thinking, why can't we allocate 1 hour per month for the community? Really?
I do need a seconder to that alternate motion.
Sorry, do you have to move that motion first?
Sorry. Seconder for. Sorry, we need a seconder for councillor Kerr's motion. It's seconded by councillor Tarkos. Sorry.
Can I please move my amendment now?
Councillor Kerr can introduce that amended motion, and then you're able to move an amendment after that.
Okay, so can I speak to this
Yes,
amendment?
certainly.
Thank
Certainly,
you.
councillor Kerr.
All right, so I propose that we introduce a monthly 1 hour online forum, which gives the community the opportunity to speak to councillors 1 hour per month. I don't think is too much to ask of councillor time, who we are elected by the people to represent them. And if we can't allocate 1 hour a month, you know, it's just absurd. Look, in order to make it comfortable for the people that feel, you know, really worried about people watching our meetings, we're doing it online. It's very safe, it's very inclusive, it's accessible for people with autoimmune issues. So I just don't understand what the big issue is for 1 hour per month when we're paid $30,000 per year by ratepayers.
Thank you. Councillor Russick, you can move an amendment at this
I
point.
would like to
in time.
move amendment. There is no problem whatsoever. I am looking forward to engaging with our community members and looking forward to speaking to even more residents.
Sorry, Councillor Russick, you just need to specify the amendment. Thank you.
So to amend to change to quarterly 1 hour forum.
At what stage can I make an amendment to the amendment? Can someone let me know with the governance rules, please?
Point of order, can I finish my amendment, please?
We need to manage this amendment first.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Is that it?
No, it's not. Submissions to be done week before. ID to be present upon the submission. So now we're going to ID to be presented upon the submission. Prioritize the residents who are presenting for the first time and are from Brimbank's most disadvantaged vulnerable groups.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. At what stage can I make amendments to this? Can you please tell me the governance rules, please?
After I'm finished.
Because my original is being hijacked. So I'd like to know when I can speak to this and go back to what I was originally proposing. Why does someone else have a precedence over my original alternate motion?
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. We need to finalise the amendment and then we need to see
Virtue signalling, that's
whether
what it
there's
is.
a second.
Scared of the community and scared to answer questions.
Point of order, Councillor Kerr, can you be respectful
We are
right now?
paid by
Yeah, point of order,
ratepayers to
please.
answer questions.
Yeah.
And if you
Point-
can't allocate 1 hour a month, what an absolute appalling joke to our residents. This is appalling.
Point of order, please.
Our residents, take note. All the residents in Brimbank should take note of this.
There is
Thank
no
you.
need to get angry. This is
Thank
a
you,
healthy
Councillor
debate.
Russick.
Oh, let's just ignore the community.
Thank you. Councillor Russick, can you please complete the amendment?
It's appalling, disgraceful behaviour.
Have we prioritize the residents who are presenting for the first time?
Thank you.
And are from Brimbank's most disadvantaged vulnerable groups.
What is this tribe?
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you. Do we
I hope
have
everyone online is
a-
watching this.
I
do
do
we
too.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Nguyen, we have a seconder.
I'd like to second that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. Am I able to do that at this time?
No, sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, councillors. Please hold on. I warned you in the gallery that if you don't stop this disruptive behaviour, I would have no choice but to direct you to leave the meeting. I consider that your behaviour has continued to be disruptive.
I think the community
Under Rule 72 of Council's governance rules, I am now ordering those individuals who have continued to be disruptive to leave the meeting because your conduct is disrupting the meeting. Please leave the meeting immediately. If you don't leave the meeting, I'll ask the CEO to ask security to have you removed. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, councillors. Get ready for next year. I hope you're excited all. You're gone. You're all sellouts. Thank you. To the motion that's up on the screen, we have a mover and we have a seconder. Would the mover like to speak to the motion? Amendment.
Yes, please. I would like to speak to my amendment. I haven't done nothing wrong by amending this. I just added a few options. One amendment that was very important to me was quarterly. So that way we see what kind of volume we're going to have. If we have a large volume of submitters, we can go back and revisit after a year, 6 months, and put it back to 1 month. What I put through was submission not to be made week before. Nothing's wrong with that. So officers have plenty of time to prepare what they need to prepare. Ideas are to be presented upon making the submission. I don't think anything wrong with that. We always talk about being transparent. And the prioritizing residents who are presenting. So I haven't taken anything else of Maria's amendment, just added 1, 2, 3 points and made small alternation to in sort of 1 month to quarterly, which, as I said, if we have a large volume, we can go back to 1 month. And I strongly support and looking forward to speaking to even more residents. And I'm always keen to explore more options of community engagement that will deliver results for our local community. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to support Councillor Rashid's amendment because I think it's a good idea to give it a go, like trial it, quarterly to see. We don't know how many people would actually would submit. I want to acknowledge that also. Councillors spend more than 1 hour a month already talking to the community in many different ways. We engage with the community in so many different ways. It doesn't only have to be for an online forum, but we already talk to people on the phone. We have their emails. Sometimes we go to community events. There are also times where, like me personally, myself, I would go to the resident. I would go to the community where they are. And look, also, I think Councillor Reich has put quite a fair thing. If there is a person who wants to make a submission to present for the first time, definitely let's hear from them because we want to hear from a wide variety, diversity of the community, and especially from people from our most disadvantaged groups. And I know that council already does quite a lot of activities already to do that. And furthermore, can I please note that in the report it says that we are currently already undergoing a review process for our council community engagement policy. So yeah, I really do think like this amendment is substantially reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Sorry. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Sorry, I'll start with Councillor Brandon.
I'm cool with the idea of it and everything. We've got a lot of ways that people can ask us questions already. My concern is that we don't know how much it'll cost to council because even though that's just an hour, that adds up to many hours of officer time. And so without knowing how much that would actually be, I don't like the idea of just deciding right now without much more thought. But we can, as part of the review process, actually find out how much that costs and put a little bit more of that sort of background look into it before deciding to do this. Yeah, that's it. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Brandon. Councillor Tarkos?
Yeah, I'd like to speak against it. I'm with Councillor Branton. I want to defer this to another meeting because we are undergoing a review, but this original motion is Councillor Kerr's, and I think it's out of step for us to, it would be out of step because her original intention was monthly meetings because it's incidental. We meet monthly. We do have briefings monthly, and this was to be 1 hour before a briefing. Now, if we can't, as councillors, commit to that, I don't quite know. Like, I understand people communicate in different ways. I'm actually meeting with my residents for 2 hours in a room starting next month for people that want to see me face to face. But some people who are immunosuppressant, who are neurodivergent, would like to have these forums on a monthly basis. And I think, why is it so hard for us as councillors to commit to that? I support the original motion as it stands.
I think I have a right of reply.
We are just getting an opinion on whether we can defer this amendment at this point.
I do have
the
a right of
process.
reply.
Sorry?
I do have a right of reply.
Can I exercise that right of reply while you're working on that? Yes. Yes, Councillor Russick.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to say to all of the councillors around here and our residents, I wouldn't like to revisit. I think I'm really reasonable in this. I don't understand if this lapses goes back to Councillor Kerr's motion, which is even more costly, if you would like to say, because it's monthly, not quarterly. Well, if it's monthly but not quarterly, obviously it will be costing
Councillors,
more.
please let Councillor Russick.
Point of order, she's making an assumption of cost. I mean, has she got budget costings?
No, but I believe if we're going to engage officers monthly, it would cost more than if we engage them quarterly. That's my belief.
Yeah.
And this is my right to reply, not anyone's
Points of order need
officer's.
to be in accordance with the rules relating to points of order. I believe, Councillor Russick, continue on your...
So I would just like to say that I would like to defer this or to lapse because I think residents need to have fair share and we need to engage with our residents. And like other councillors, I hope so. I do engage with my residents very often. So thank you.
Thank you. Just seeking an opinion on the alternate motion.
Just point of order, Mr. Mayor. I don't think Councillor Rice can put a deferral. Someone else, yes, because she already got an amendment there.
Thank you, Councillor David.
Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, I think we're supposed to vote after about reply. All right.
We're just getting advice. Did you want to just clarify that for the councillors?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is around the process for a deferral motion. Just to clarify, the motion that's currently being considered by council is an amendment. If that amendment is carried, that then becomes a substantive motion and is still to be carried. At that point in time, a motion to defer can be received.
Thank you. I'll take that advice, and I'll ask all those in favour of the motion that's up on the screen, sorry, the amendment that's up on the screen. All those in favour of it? Okay. We can still, okay. The amendment is carried and becomes the substantive motion. Now we can receive an alternate motion. Councillor Borg?
Mr.
It's
Mayor,
carried, yes.
I would like to move the motion to defer this motion. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder?
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify something, this deferral, it'll come back to us again, exactly the same. We cannot change any words at all. So we'll be doing exactly the same thing next time. So I believe now the motion is carried and it's a decision, just before.
Yes, I am advised that the amended motion will come back. Okay. And we have, thank you. We have a move of a motion to defer. Do we have a seconder?
Point of order. Can you just clarify? So, the current substantive motion is the one with the amendment that was moved. So, if we defer it, when it comes back to the next council meeting, it's the motion with the amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Clear. Thank you.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. You put the amendment put forward by Councillor Raj. It was seconded, then we put it to a vote. And we had 5 numbers, just 4. And it's carried. There's no deferrals anymore. That's the law.
That becomes the substantive motion, Councillor David.
Well,
if you'd like a further explanation, I'm prepared to get our governance. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Just to clarify, it is actually Rule 31 of the governance rules that says if an amendment is carried, the motion as amended then becomes the motion before the meeting, and that ultimately must be put before it's adopted. So at this point in time, all council has done is carried an amendment. There is still a motion on the chair, which is the amended motion put by Councillor Kerr, which is still on the table and has only had one speaker speak to it, and that was the mover. That matter is not resolved, and council can defer at this time should it choose.
Thank you. We have a move of a motion to defer this matter. Do we have a seconder to defer? Councillor Tarkos seconds. You're seconding it? Yes. Okay. Would the mover like to speak to this motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Would the seconder like to speak to this motion? Is there anyone in favour who would like to speak to this motion? Is there anyone against who would like to speak to this motion? Councillor Russick?
I just want to say that we're going to go back to Councillor Kerr's motion. So I don't know what we're doing tonight. We just changed a few things with my amendment. It went through, it passed. So I didn't take nothing out of Councillor Kerr's motion except quarterly. Some councils have spoke about being worried about spending money. So I did that quarterly, so that way we can see, come back, revisit, and make it monthly. I didn't do anything else. As I said, I'm quite happy to speak to residents, to meet the residents, but what I did was just put it quarterly so we see how it goes, how much interest we get from residents, revisit, come back, and then more than welcome to put it to 1 month. That's it. So if we do this now, we're going back to Councillor Kerr's motion. So can I have then more explanation, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Just to clarify, if this matter is deferred at this point, the matter that comes back to council is the amended motion. The motion that you amended tonight, as per Councillor Razik and seconded by Councillor Nguyen, is still the matter before council, and that would be the resolution that comes back to council to consider, should you choose to defer it.
Thank you for clarification. So we're going back to my amendment. Thank you.
Okay, with no further debate from councillors, to the motion that we defer, I'll move the motion. All those in favour of that motion? All those against that motion? The motion is carried. Thank you. Item 13. Sorry, I've got a 12. Oh, still got one left. Oh dear. 12.12. Works order number 23 332 W24 to 16 Whitesides Avenue, Sunshine West Road Rehabilitation Works. Mr. Levers, would you like to speak to that motion? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is seeking council approval to award a works order for road rehabilitation works in Whitesides Avenue, Sunshine West to Panhold Constructions. Panhold Constructions were appointed to council's Civil Works panel in May 2023. Of the 12 panel contractors appointed, 7 responded to this request for quote, and Panhold have been assessed as the best value to deliver the project. I note that the project can be delivered for less than the budgeted amount, and subject to council approval, the savings, which is about almost 200,000, would be reallocated back into the Capital Works program to fund other priorities in 23-24. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that, Mr. Levers. Are there any questions for the Director? Could I have a mover of the motion? Councillor David.
Of the motion as written on the business paper.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Jasmine Nguyen.
I would like to second it as per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor, it's this type of road, I've spoken a lot of times, residents were asking about, what are you doing with this? And this is happening. It's a very good report. Surely they'll be happy. The Whiteside Avenue will be getting done. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. Councillor Nguyen, would you like to speak to the motion?
I think Councillor David summarised it greatly.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Okay. Thank you. Item 13, notice of motion. There are 4 notice of motion for this meeting. 13.1, objection to the application for extension of trading hours by Brimbank Hotel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Borg.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This motion has arisen in coordination with other councils. I'm very concerned about the devastating impacts that gambling has on our community, and in particular, the prevalence and accessibility of electronic gaming machines. I'm calling on this council to appeal to the Victorian Gambling and Casino Commission to oppose Braybrook Hotel's application for an extension of trading hours for their gaming room from 1 to 3 a.m. This is crucial in protecting the Brimbank community from gambling harm. Just to give you a scenario that, Mr. Mayor, is that the reason being is that other clubs close their doors and then the patrons will just move on to this and continue the spiral of gambling. Braybrook Hotel have applied to the VGCC to extend their EGM opening hours from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. The Braybrook Hotel is also located in the city of Maribyrnong, but lies just a metre away from the Brimbank border. This is deeply concerning for our community and the Maribyrnong community, so that's why this is a joint resolution. Gambling losses, as we all know, is disproportionately high in Brimbank. In 22-23, a record-breaking total of 1.73 million was lost at EGMs in Brimbank, the highest of any Victorian local government area. The extension of hours to 3 a.m. is highly likely to have a negative impact on our community and continue to increase the losses from EGMs. As evidence shows, that risk from harm arises and increases after midnight and in the early hours of the morning. It's clear that Braybrook's hotel application is in response to the Victorian State Government's sweeping gambling reforms, of which our council played a huge role in advocating for, which include a mandatory shutdown period of EGMs between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. These reforms are aimed to reduce gambling harm. Braybrook's application to extend EGM opening hours is likely to increase that harm, not reduce it. I'm concerned that allowing Braybrook Hotel to extend this EGM opening hours will set a precedent by encouraging other Victorian venues to do the same. In conclusion, I'm deeply concerned about the impacts of gambling on our community. Through this motion, I call on Council to support in making this submission in joint with Maribyrnong City Council, and note that Council objects to this extension of trading hours due to the proximity of Braybrook Hotel to Brimbank and our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tapkos. Councillor Borg.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just briefly want to say that I do endorse Councillor Taco's comments and her comprehensive coverage about our concern regarding the community. As we know, the Braybrook Hotel sits very much on the border between Brimbank and Braybrook, and extending the hours would make the situation even much worse. And as Councillor Takos mentioned, it will set a precedence to other gaming venues. So I'm more than happy to support it, and thank Councillor Takos for putting in this motion.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. 13.2, communicating with culturally and linguistically diverse communities. Councillor O'Reilly.
I'd like to move the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Nguyen.
Yes, I would like to second Councillor O'Reilly's notice of motion.
Thank you. Councillor O'Reilly, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Brimbank is one of the most culturally diverse areas in Australia, with 48.2% of residents born overseas and over 160 different languages spoken. About 1 in 5 residents either do not speak English well or do not speak English at all. I have raised this notice of motion to investigate how we can improve the way our council improves communication with our non-English speaking communities. We have census data to tell us about the diverse range of languages spoken, with English and Vietnamese making up more than 50% of those in Brimbank. However, we do not have information to tell us about the range of languages that people can read and write in. How can we improve our reach across our culturally and linguistically diverse communities in Brimbank? For example, I recall at one council consultation, there were postcards left by Brimbank at shops that residents only needed to fill out and pop into a postbox. Something like this could go with an existing mail out to collect information on the languages residents can read and write in a household. This information could help us in understanding how we can further improve our engagement with CAL communities by having this data and using this data to help shape the way in terms of the languages we choose to send out communications in. I look forward to receiving an update on this report in the future, and I ask my fellow councillors to support me in this endeavour. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Councillor Nguyen, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Yeah, briefly. So I would like to welcome Councillor Riley's notice of motion, acknowledging that Brimbank is one of the most culturally and linguistically diverse cities, if not in just Victoria, but in Australia. And I would also acknowledge here that in actually nearly 2/3 of our residents speak a language other than English at home. And I also want to acknowledge that, look, everybody tries their best to speak English because we do live in Australia. However, if there's better ways for council and other organisations, communities to inform and engage with our local community, I'm all for it. Like, there's been many times where I've actually met people in the council building because they just weren't able to speak English, or I'll just go to the community event and I'll speak there, and they always greatly appreciate it. And I just really want to put a particular focus here on our newly settled people living in the community, and also our senior residents. And yeah, I congratulate this motion coming forward. So I encourage other councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. 13.3, call for government to impose ban on gambling advertising. Councillor Takos.
I'd like to move this motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a seconder to this motion? Councillor Rankarasi.
I second this motion. Thank you. As per shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This week is Gambling Harm Awareness Week. I'm really concerned about the devastating impacts of gambling on our community. I'm calling on Council to advocate to the state and federal government to impose tougher regulations around the accessibility of gambling apps, games, promotions to children, and to both federal and state governments to provide support to children and families to treat gambling and gamification apps as health addictions. This is the potential to significantly reduce gambling harm and losses in our community and across Australia. Mr. Mayor, I went to a symposium in Hume a week ago, and what was outlined that when one person gambles, the whole family suffers, and what we need to do is support the whole family as it is a serious health issue. Opportunities to gamble via games and apps on phones and computers are accessible to young people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In-game purchases have the potential to become addictive and can increase a young person's likelihood of experiencing gambling harm later in life. Alarmingly, one study of Victorian secondary school students found that almost a third of those children had gambled. Public health safety experts say that this represents only a small portion of the young people being harmed by gambling. Children and young people are bombarded with gambling marketing through social media, online advertising, and sports coverage. Losses from wagering, as we all know, are extremely high, but the online losses are harder to measure. Local Brimbank data is not available, but it is likely that Brimbank residents, including children, have contributed starkly to those losses. We know from research that community are concerned about the proliferation and normalisation of wagering advertising in Australia and its impacts on gambling behaviour and risks of harm to young people. You only have to go into a sports club to overhear young kids saying, who you're going to bet on. You know, this is normal language now. And in fact, if you don't engage, you're not seen as a mate. So this is a real problem that we have. In conclusion, I remain very concerned about the accessibility of gambling, games and promotions on the Brimbank community, and especially children and vulnerable people. Regulation of these products is critical to preventing and reducing gambling harm. Through this motion, I'll call Council to lobby the federal and state government to impose tougher regulations around the accessibility of gambling apps, games and promotions to children. I also call on both federal and state governments to provide support to families and to children who at the moment are really suffering and not getting treatment for gambling and gamification apps as health addictions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor Russick, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, just a few words, thank you. I just wanted to say that Brimbank has enormous records of attracting the highest losses on electronic gambling machines of any local government area in Victoria for over a decade. From July 2013 to July 2023, over 1.4 billion has been lost in EGMs in Brimbank. In 2020-23, a record-breaking 172.9 million was lost to EGMs in Brimbank. That represents over 35% increase over the same period 12 months ago. I just wanted to say that I'm grateful that Councillor Tarkos put this motion through, and it is a big issue in Brimbank. But until government stops their addiction, we won't be able to help those people. We can try as much as we want, but until government don't stop their addiction, it'll be hard to help those people, and it's sad, especially for Brimbank area.
Thank you, Councillor Russick. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Borg.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, a couple of points. We know very well how advertising and its implications on the audience, especially with regards to gambling, is devastating. As we always say, a picture says 1,000 words. Another point that I want to mention is that we have a generation of children who are growing with gambling and gamification apps as the norm. As Councillor Tarkos said, the narrative about gambling is very common amongst children, and this is highly, highly concerning. And another point that I would like to mention is health addiction. Addiction to gambling is a health problem, and it's important that the federal and the state government take note of this and take the appropriate action, because we can see the problems getting worse rather than better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Item 13.4, redesignation of the car parks in front of Council 301 Hampshire Road to accessible car parks. Do I have a mover of this motion?
On behalf of Councillor Kerr, she wished for this to be moved tonight, so I will move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second Councillor Tarkos' motion. Councillor Kerr's motion.
Thank you. Councillor Russick seconds the motion. Councillor Tarkos, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I'd just like to say that on behalf of Councillor Kerr, she wanted to should move this motion, particularly for members of the DAC, the Disability Action Committee, who were finding it very challenging to find a car park in front of the building for the meeting for a long period. And it really, accessibility, if we can't offer that accessibility to our community, then it really makes it really hard to come along to these meetings. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor Russick.
I just want to say I support this motion.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Councillor Borg.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, I have heard the members of the community's frustrations at the DEC meeting that we had, and they couldn't find parking in front of council, and they had to go through the problem of going through the car park at the back, which was not only delayed the meeting, but it also was very, very difficult for them to walk the distance. So I think it's a good move to make sure that the parking in front of the Civic Center is available for the people with disability. So for that reason, I do support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Does any other councillor wish to speak to this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 14, notices of rescission. There are no notices of rescission. Item 15, urgent business. CEO, is there any urgent business?
There are no matters of urgent business this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Item 16, confidential business. There are no items of confidential business. Now, before we close the meeting, I would like to acknowledge that our Chief Financial Officer, Shane Maher, is leaving the organisation, and I'll certainly open it up to councillors to make some comments. But if I could start that off with saying he leaves this organisation in a very healthy financial position, and we have had a lot of advice over the years from Mr. Maher, which has steered us into this position that we're in. And I think to give you just an idea of the difficulty council faces since the rate capping system came in, if one were to have continued with the rate increases that were occurring beforehand, and in a sense, a compounding sense, this council has $90 million less over that time than to deal with all the things that our community wants to do, and of course we would like to do for the community. That is an extremely difficult situation, but despite that, we built the Borg, and it has been successful. And our budget is sound, and again, this is fairly impressive stuff. We've seen councils elsewhere get into a lot of trouble because of their financial situation, and we have this strictly imposed system regime upon us, making it so difficult to do the best we can do for the community. We, the management team and the staff, have all had to work extremely hard to achieve the financial position we're in. And of course, the chief architect of that has been Mr. Shane Maher. So I would certainly like to thank Mr. Maher for all your advice, attending meetings, and all the work that you've done in guiding us into this position. Thank you very much. And I would certainly open it up to councillors, starting with Councillor Tarkos. Thank you.
Shane, I'd like to firstly thank you for being here in this organisation for the time I've been here you've been here 9 years, but when I came I certainly did not know a lot about budgets and how they worked, and you had to really explain that to me at a really grassroots level to understand. However, the thing I liked about you, Shane, is you always had your door open. We could come and talk to you about anything at all. There was never any intimidation about what you explained. And as the Mayor said, you made one dream that we felt impossible possible, and that was bulk. And that's, I think, a testimony to you as a CFO, a par excellence CFO. And I wish you all the best with the future. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Would any other Councillor Nguyen?
If there's anything I learnt from Mr. Shane Maher, it's the financial implications of rate capping every single year. We've learnt about just the complexities of a council budget, and while we understand that every one of us in the community wants to see different things happen, the funds have to come from somewhere, and we have to prioritize and allocate, and that is not an easy job. So thank you, Shane, for all your service throughout the years, and I wish you the best for your future.
Thank you. Councillor Russick?
Thank you. Thank you for your service at Brimbank, Shane. In particular, I would like to thank you for all the support you provided me as Mayor and as a councillor on this council. Your work and dedication to Brimbank community is appreciated by us all, and I wish you the very best in your next chapter in your life, and thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Russick. Councillor David?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you said everything about Shane, and it's true. Good financial person. I spent quite a bit of time with Shane, 2 terms nearly, with him. And he's a guy, I found that he listens to you, to a question, he understands the question, and makes sure you understand his advice or his whatever you ask him to do. He was listening to understand your question. I spent some time also at the audit committee, and I found Shane an extremely good officer in representing us. So, Shane, I wish I can change your mind somehow, but look, for me, I think for all of us, it's we wish you all the best for the future. And I know you do well, whatever you do. You're a good man, and good luck. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Borg?
Well, what can I say? I think it has been said all, but I would like to join my fellow councillors, Shane, in thanking you for your sterling contribution to our organisation. I've been here now almost 7 years. That's right, and that's how long I have been. I have known you, and like Councillor Tacos, I had no idea about financial matters and about the budget, but thanks to you, I have learned a lot about this sector. It has been a great pleasure working with you, both as a colleague and as a friend. I want to wish you all the very, very best in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. If the Councillor O'Reilly?
I've only been here, I think 9 months now, and your support during induction, helping me navigate financial literacy, very much appreciated, and I can take that knowledge with me in the future. And thank you for all your contributions to Brimbank. Yeah, I don't. It's so sad when people move on. But it's also an exciting time for you to look at the next chapter of your life. So I wish you all the best on the next stage of your journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia?
Thank you. Loving all the kudos, Shane. I just want to say thank you so much for everything. You've supported me just like you have this council, and we wouldn't be in the position that we're in today if it wasn't for your support. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Papalia. Okay, that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in the meeting tonight, which was very interesting. little bit too interesting. I declare this meeting closed at 9:35. Thank you. I instruct Channel